To be completely honest, this was an impulse buy. I was really restless and decided I'm gonna take the most scenic train in the United States, and that's how I ended up on the California Zephyr in July. Hello, I'm Sojourner. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about my 52-hour train ride from Chicago to Emeryville, California to ride the California Zephyr. I was really excited to take this train ride. It was my first long train ride solo, going on it for 52 hours instead of just an hour and a half or maybe even 6 hours. Was a completely new experience, and so I wanted to give you all some tips if you were thinking about doing this train ride by yourself. I think the tips can be applied to both solo travelers and non-solo travelers, but let's get into them. My first tip if you're taking this ride is to bring multiple things to do. I am going to do a whole other video on how to pack for an overnight train ride, but I think no matter if you are a solo traveler or you're traveling with one person or multiple people, 52 hours is a long time to be on a train. And so you need to bring some things to keep you occupied. I brought my laptop. I'm a writer and a blogger, so I had things to write. Also brought my travel journal. And then on my phone, of course, had some music, had some podcasts pre-downloaded because you can't download when you get on the train because there is no Wi-Fi. And if you wanted to, you can also download some movies beforehand to have them on your laptop as well. I also brought a book, of course. Whatever you need to do to keep you busy, I would highly recommend you add it to your packing list. Tip number 2, if you are taking this train ride, is to be prepared to talk to a bunch of new people, especially again if you are a solo traveler. I got asked so many questions and I didn't have to take the same precautions I would normally do as a solo traveler if someone asked me if I was by myself, because I was there overnight and they would eventually figure out that I was gonna be alone the whole time. And so if you are someone who may be a little shy, I would recommend that you kind of prepare yourself. I kind of had talking points eventually as I talked to more people. I talked to the most people in the dining car because they primarily sat me with couples and families who were traveling together. And of course, don't be afraid to have those boundaries. If you have a story you want to tell people, you can stick to that. But I found that most people were friendly on the train. They just were really curious about what I was doing solo, and a lot of them have been on that train itself multiple times or are avid Amtrak train riders, and so they gave me a lot of tips for future routes. Again, don't be afraid, set boundaries, but don't be afraid to kind of talk to new people when you're in the dining car especially. My third tip is splurge on the roomette if you can. I know buying a roomette is definitely the more expensive option compared to being in coach, but I found it made my trip a lot more enjoyable because one, I was able to sleep more comfortably. There's a bed in the roomette / sleeper cars, and so I was able to lay my head really nicely every night that I was on the train. I also had more privacy as a solo traveler, and also it gave me a place to retreat to from all of the questions. I travel so much now by myself. I'm a pretty friendly person and I know kind of how to maneuver being a solo traveler, but it's always nice to have a space to come back to and retreat to when you kind of want to have that solitude that you built into your trip when you decided to take this solo. I also recommend a roomette because you have more privacy for your things. The roomettes cannot lock, to my knowledge, from the outside. They could only lock from the inside. However, I left my bag in there with my laptop sometimes when I wanted to go into the observation car, and none of my stuff was ever tampered with or taken. Everyone is pretty respectful, so I really think the roomette is a great option to get that extra space and comfort and to really enjoy your trip. Also with the roomette, you do get the shower access. They are not in the rooms, but they are available to you on the first floor of the sleeper car. Tip number 4 is to spend time in the observation car, and that's also where you'll meet more people aside from being in the dining car. It has 2 sides, and so you can see both sides. You can switch it up. It just gives you another place to kind of sit in and walk through as you are on the train, aside from just being in the roomette and aside from eating in the dining car. But I think for me as a solo female traveler, it was really easy to retreat to my roomette because I do like my solitude. I love being by myself, and so obviously that's why I wanted to take the train solo. But do not just stay in the roomette. get out and go into the observation car, even when it's not on the most scenic parts of the trip. It's really relaxing to look at the nature that you're going through as we're passing through on the train. My favorite time to be in the observation car was during sunrise. I'm a morning person, so it's really easy for me to get up in the mornings, but I would say if you can, at least one of the mornings, get up and see the sunrise from the observation car. It is so gorgeous. Primarily in the more deserty areas is when we got the best sunrises and sunsets. So when we're passing through Utah, it was really, really pretty, and I highly recommend it. My fifth tip is to get to know the Amtrak staff. They are probably the most nicest, accommodating people I have ever traveled with as my non-unofficial travel companions. They have so many stories of different train rides, what have happened on the train rides, on their experiences. They also have a lot of tips, so if you are looking to do more Amtrak trains, they can definitely give you some insider tips because they work for Amtrak and they know these trains and these lines in and out. But overall, they are super helpful, friendly, and if you're in the sleeper car, I found that they were very accommodating. My sixth tip is to get out and use those breaks to stretch. There are about 15 to 30-minute breaks spread out between the 52 hours, so definitely use those to your advantage. This was a mistake that I made that I kind of regretted later because I really should have stretched my legs a little more when I was on the train, but it's so easy to get so comfortable and just want to stay in the roomette or the observation car. Use those breaks, use those stops. There's one in Denver and Grand Junction. Use them to stretch your legs and get some fresh air. 52 hours is just a really long time to be sitting, and so getting your legs moving, whether you walk around the train or use the breaks, I would suggest doing both. Is something that I wish I would have done more of when I was on the train. Just remember, don't go too far because the breaks are not that long and they don't come get you. So you don't want to go off into like downtown Denver during the break. Stay around the Amtrak platform or in the train station to stretch your legs during those breaks. My seventh tip is for light sleepers. Bring those earbuds or whatever medication you use to help you sleep because you never know how the train is going to move at night and how it's going to affect you. I am not a light sleeper. I sleep like a rock. When I'm out, I am out. However, I did have some issues when I was on the train, at least on the first night. It was definitely a little rockier than I anticipated. I woke up feeling a lot more tired. I woke up in the middle of the night for a little bit. So if you are a light sleeper, you can also probably add an eye mask in here as well if you want more darkness, because there is like a little light underneath where you open the door to get out of your room that doesn't really shut off, and so it will peek through your room at night. My eighth tip is something that happened to me, and that was a delay. I did hear about before I went that it's very common for Amtrak to have delays, but mine was 7 hours long. So tip number 8 is to prepare for those delays. Again, bringing things that could possibly keep you occupied for a 7-hour or longer. Hopefully it's less of a delay. Amtrak did get everyone on the train a snack box during the delay because it was so long. Because when you book a roomette, normally it covers dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then breakfast and lunch on the last day and not dinner. Just relax, take another nap. Don't worry too much. I know it's really hard. I was freaking out as a solo traveler, wondering how I was going to get from Emeryville to San Francisco. I ended up catching an Amtrak bus to San Francisco, then taking a Lyft to my Airbnb. So it worked out just fine, but I definitely should have prepared a lot better for the delay and had a backup plan already in place just in case the delay went as long as it did. Thankfully, the Amtrak staff was, again, very accommodating and got me connected with their bus station. I would also build this delay into your itinerary. Had I known it was going to be that long, I would have stayed at Emeryville for a night or even somewhere in Oakland and then gone over to San Francisco the next day. Tip number 9 is to use this time to unplug. As I mentioned previously, there is no Wi-Fi on this Amtrak train to the California Zephyr, and so go, you will not have access to internet. I know this is really a deal breaker for a lot of people who are debating if they want to go and take this route, but I think it was worth it. I even have a hotspot. I use something called travel Wi-Fi. It's a portable hotspot. It's about $200, maybe under $200, and I use it for my travel just in case I do need Wi-Fi. I brought it on this trip but didn't end up needing it or even wanting to use it, so it's not necessary. Sit in the observation car and relax, sit in your roomette and relax, and sit in the dining car and just unplug and not worry about what's going on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of that. And then my 10th and final tip is do not let the 52 hours intimidate you. I know there are faster ways to get to California, but this is the way that I wanted to go, and I think it's something that everyone, if you have the means and opportunity to take advantage of it, I would highly recommend you do so. The 52 hours go by so fast. You can just stare out the window the whole time. You can write, you can read. There are so many other ways to fill your time. So don't let the 52 hours intimidate you. It's definitely a doable experience to have. So that is it for this video. Stay tuned for a video on what to pack for an overnight trip. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and leave any thoughts and feelings in the comments below. And I will see you all at my next video. Bye. Stay curious.